Good evening and welcome to All Things Sky Blue. This is the preview for the Millwall against Coventry at the Den this Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. As you can see at the bottom, this is where you can find us, Twitter or X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We are now delighted to be sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications. Around Coventry, Warwickshire and the West Midlands area, you can do your fabrication needs, so any welding that you need to RSJs, beams, flats, angles, things like that. Any steel fabrication works. He's a really good guy to go. His links in our page as well. We're also partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar, where you can find us on home matches at the CBS Arena. Again, please come up and say hello to us. We're all very friendly bunch, and obviously we do a little bit of live feed from there as well with the fans and have a chat. As you guys know that have obviously listened to this before, we do a Twitter space on a Sunday night where you can find us as well. So please go and have a look at that. It's all on podcasts, so Spotify, Amazon, and iTunes, anywhere that you get your podcasts from, you can find us on there as well. We have got a recent interview with an ex-football player, John Williams, aka the Flying Postman. It's a really good listen to. So if you're on there as well, have a listen. And please go and like and subscribe to anything we do and follow our pages. It's much appreciated. So straight into the preview with the Millwall against Coventry on Saturday. As always, I'm joined by Mark. Good evening, Mark. And you are on now.
Good evening, Stuart. Good evening, everyone who's watching. Hope you're all well.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good. You okay?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. It'd be nice to have some championship football back instead of international football for a change. So
yeah, we definitely miss it, don't we? We definitely miss the club games. And joined today is the Millwall fan, Dan.
Good evening, Dan. Gents. Good evening.
Hi, Dan.
Good evening.
You're well?
Yes, I'm very good. Thank you, chaps. All good indeed.
Good. And obviously, I had the pleasure of talking to you on the new podcast channel, if you like, that was on X. It's that championship show, isn't it, or pod or something like that?
Call-in show, something like that. Yeah,
something like that. That was a really good show. So if you get to listen to that, please have a listen. So first of all, then, Dan, just introduce yourself. Let us know what you guys do and where we can find you.
So yeah, I'm Dan, representing that Millwall podcast. You can just find us on kind of the same places to where you can find the All Things Sky Blue guys. We're on Twitter, X, TikTok, and Instagram, and also wherever you get your podcasts as well.
Brilliant, fantastic. Thank you very much. So let's dive straight in then, and we'll go into the history of Millwall against Coventry. Now, from our perspective, with the revision that I've done for tonight's show, they've all been very, very close games. So I just did the last 5 initially. Cover won 2, you've won 2, and we've drew 1. And then I looked a little bit further back, and the whole of our history, we've won 32, lost 32, drew 15. It's ridiculously that close. Does it feel that close for you, or do you think it's normally one-sided?
I mean, yeah. You say that. Obviously, we've had a lot of quite entertaining games, I'd actually say, against Coventry, particularly start of last season. I mean, obviously from a Mill perspective, that was great. The one where we was 2-0 down and then came back to win 3-2. Yeah. But there's also another game that's on a personal note for me against Coventry that sticks in the memory. It's the one where you guys won 4-0 at the Den. It might have been in, I want to say, like 2016 or something like that. Okay. When I think we missed a penalty early on, then Adam Armstrong scored like a worldie from 40 yards. And I just remember it because I was ball boy on the day and I was sitting bang on the halfway line. And I saw him lob the keeper and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to be a good afternoon after this. So...
Blimey. So you were a boy on that one then, was you?
Yeah, the Millwall are quite good with that. They try and rather than just let the youth team players do it, they kind of do the junior lions raffle and stuff like that, and pull people out the hat. And same with the mascots as well and stuff like that. So yeah, was ball boy quite a few times, and I even got to be mascot once upon a time as well, which was very memorable moments from an early age supporting Millwall.
Fantastic, excellent. Obviously, you mentioned the 4-0 there that we had against you. The one that sort of probably sticks in my memory a little bit more was last day of the season in 2021, and we won 6-1. And we were just it just felt like every time that we went forward, we were just going to score a goal against you at our place. Obviously, back then it was the Rico Arena.
Yeah, I think the only reason I probably don't really remember that game too well is because none of us were there, were we? So,
well, that's right.
In my mind, I can pretend that one never happened.
Fair enough. But in all seriousness, though, there's really only apart from that one in sort of recent history, if you like, all the games have been won by one goal. It's either been 1-0, 3-2, 2-1, or something of that nature. Do you think that's a flare of reflection of both teams and how both teams are set up?
Yeah, I mean, both teams are kind of quite similar, in terms of a lot of things. I think passionate fans is obviously something that connects the clubs really well. And I would have kind of said as well, not really, spending too much money in terms of staying loyal to players. Obviously, that kind of went a bit different for you in the summer, because obviously I know you went on quite a bit of a spending spree, because obviously you had the money coming from Gyökeres and Hamer and stuff like that. So I think there is a lot of things that connect the clubs, and obviously we played you guys in League One, and now obviously we're both, last season we was both punching above our weight at the top end of the Championship for two teams that haven't never had a parachute payment. I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, how obviously. I'll go into the sort of this season. I'm jumping ahead of myself slightly, but going into this season, we got into the playoffs and we've started off, honestly, we've started off quite poorly. We've had the odd good result and odd good performance, but generally it's been quite poor. And obviously you guys just missed out. How are you feeling? How are you reflecting on just missing out of the playoffs?
I mean, summer was obviously quite a tough period for the club, because obviously we went through, we just missed out in probably the worst way to miss out on the playoffs possible. Then we had just a couple of weeks after that, we had our much loved owner and chairman died in a car crash as well in the summer. So that was really a tough time. And I think, other than, up until the last game against Sheffield Wednesday, I think the club, and when Gary Rowett was still in charge, was probably still in a bit of a hangover phase from that kind of capitulation from the end of last season, to be completely honest.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Anything you want to add, Mark, or ask?
Yeah, I just got a couple of questions about obviously Gary Rowett. Was that universally a popular decision amongst the Lions fans of his sacking, and obviously Joe Edwards has come into plays and obviously had a great start of 4-0 win at Sheffield Wednesday. Has there been any changes to the style of football from Rowett, just on the one game you've seen?
So firstly, on the Rowett question, I don't think you'd find many Millwall fans that said he would have done a bad job in the 4 years he was at the club. He took us from a team that when we was in the Championship, we was usually looking over our shoulder towards that bottom relegation. As I said, we've got a small budget in the league. We've always got a bottom six budget in this league. And Rowett just completely changed the mentality of the club to one that was going to punch above their weight, to one that was going to challenge the playoffs. He had the 3-year plan to get in the playoffs, and obviously that didn't quite happen. Obviously, last season would have been the one, because he had a bit of a half season, then had a 3-year plan after that. It just felt like, to be honest, after the Blackburn game, I was quite surprised he didn't go. And then the whole thing with our owner, John Berylson, happened. And I think then he made the decision with the club to probably stay on and provide a bit of continuity in what was quite a difficult period. But then the start of the season, in particular, Norwich away, when we lost 3-1 there, that was quite a tough afternoon for him on a personal level, as well as the team and the club. And I think that was really the one that, if you hadn't realised that Rowett just ran out of road at Millwall, that was kind of the game where we'd realised it, to be honest. And we continued. There was a few times after that where we thought he was going to go after games and stuff like that. And then in the next game, we go and pull a result out of nowhere. So it just kind of kept on going. But then he, not this international break, the one just before this one, he went, I've just had enough, to be completely honest. And, I thank Rowett for the job he's done, and, move on in football. That's just what happens. And in terms of the style of football, I mean, when we had Rowett, we wanted to get the ball, back to front quite quickly. It would be direct football, wouldn't be too interested in keeping the ball at the back, and didn't really want to have possession, was quite prepared to do the chasing. In the first game under Edwards, again, we had less than 50% of possession. But when we got on the ball, we wanted to progress it through the players and stuff like that. There wasn't very often where we hit a long ball over the top to our striker to chase, or for him to try and win a header against a couple of giant centre halves. We played the ball on the floor, we kept it really well, and scored some really good goals as a result of that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we touched on Brooke Norton-Cuffy. Obviously, how's he slotted into Millwall's side? Obviously playing wide right. I've seen on the sort of 4-4-2. Is he a player that excites you when you watch him live?
Yeah, so he's played right wing back, right midfield, and right back since he's played already. So he's a very good player. I'm not going to say he isn't. There's been maybe a couple of times where I've watched him, particularly when he was playing as a wing back, and I thought maybe his defensive work rate was lacking a little bit. But on the whole, overall, he's been a massive. I would say he's been a massive upgrade to the player we did have at right back last season in Danny McNamara. I don't think he was a bad player, but I just think Norton Cuffy, particularly in terms of his attacking threat and output, is just a massive upgrade on him.
Yeah. And I noticed you got a couple of new signings in the summer. You got Wes Harding, I think, came in from Rotherham. Casper Dedor, I don't know as much about him. I mean, how are they fitted into the team? Are they fitted in like a duck, taking it like a duck to water, so to speak, or are they taking a bit longer to settle?
Them two in particular, yeah. Casper, we go with Casper because that surname is a bit complicated for us. So Casper's fine for us. No, he's been probably, if I had to vote for my player of the season now, he would probably be my vote, to be completely honest. He just makes everything look so simple when he's playing football. He's just a brilliant player to watch. He's one of them completely underappreciated players in most teams, but in Millwall, he's the type of player that sticks out, because that's exactly the type of player we look for. And then Harding was a bit of a weird one, because he came in from Rotherham, and Rotherham fans are like, he's rubbish. He just came in as a kind of a backup defender, low expectations. Got an hour due to another player's injury against Birmingham. And I thought he looked okay, and then he vanished for about a month after that. And then he came into the team when we played Plymouth away, and he put in a man of the match performance. And since then, he hasn't really looked back. I think he had a little bit of a shaky game against Southampton, but I don't think any of our team had a great day that day. And since then, he's been an absolute rock at the back, and now he's even chipping in with goals as well.
Yeah. In terms of, I mean, the games I've seen us play against Millwall, I think the two players, I think I like Zian Fleming and Tom Bradshaw up front. I think they're two really good players. Would you say that they could be our biggest threat going into Saturday's game, or do you think there are any other players from Millwall that could cause us problems?
Fleming, I think on his day, he's one of the best players in the division, to be honest. And he showed that last season with his form. Probably, even by his standards, hasn't quite hit top gear yet. And I think that was kind of due to, there was a lot of transfer speculation about him in the summer. So I think maybe his head wasn't in the right place when the season started. And then Rowett's tactics often meant him being played out on the wing. And as good as player as he is, he's not a winger. He's someone who wants to be in that pocket of space behind the striker, affecting the game. And that seems to be where Edwards is going to play him, if not maybe even up top in a front two. So I'm expecting Fleming to really kick on now. And he might have a move in his mind to try and get that in January. So he probably want to try and put himself in the shop window, if that is still in his mind a little bit now. And Bradshaw, I mean, we saw a little bit of a different side to Tom Bradshaw in the game against Sheffield Wednesday, because usually Bradshaw's job is to try and hold the ball up against and win headers against 6'4" centre halves, which that isn't his game. He's a great player, but that isn't his game. Whereas against Wednesday, we got the ball into his feet. He would turn, he would run at the defence, and he got the assist for Brooke Norton-Cuffy's goal, which was a great assist. And his link-up play just that day was really good. And he'll never stop running as well. He's the trigger point for our press. He starts to press every single time. So, I think they're going to be two players in particular. And I would also say if I expect he'll come off the bench because Edwards has a track record of developing younger players, and I think Romain Esse is going to be one to go on to have like a really good career. I think he's going to go on to play for England. He's already playing in the England youth setup. And he just, I think he's almost got the world at his feet at 18, 19. He's a brilliant, talented footballer. So I think if he was to come off the bench, which I'm fully expecting he will, I think he's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, I've just seen the second tier pod talk about the gentleman that the lad that you've just spoke about there. It would be it would be good to see him play. Obviously, in terms of form, home and away, with what I've noticed as well, at the moment you're playing a lot better away from home than you are at home. I don't think you only won one game at home, and that was at the start of the season, I think.
We beat Rotherham at home. It's not exactly a. It's not exactly a. I don't want to. If there's any Rotherham fans listening,
do you think you're a little bit nervous at home and you can play freely away?
I mean, it is very, very unusual for Millwall to be in the place we are. In terms of the league table, home and away at the minute, we're 4th in the away standings and we're 22nd in the home standings, which is completely the opposite to the Millwall I've ever known since I've been going. And I think it's if you look at our last 23 home games, so take the last 23 as if you've played a whole season, we've won 7 home games, which is like 27%, which is really, really unlike us. And if it was Rowett, I would have said you might be still playing us at a good time. But with obviously Joe Edwards coming in, it is just a new lease of life to the club, and he has a chance to make try and make the ground famous for that intimidating atmosphere for what it's known for. And make fans and players enjoy the game, because that was something, it wasn't just the players that were struggling to do it. It was us as well. If it felt like a chore going to Millwall at times at the start of this season. So I think it has been the pressure, particularly, with the form that I've mentioned and the hangover of last season. It has been a bit of pressure, but I think it's going to be a completely different atmosphere come the game on Saturday.
Yeah. Anything else to add to that, Matt?
I think, I think just talking about from Coventry point of view, I guess this game, I think we're playing Millwall at a really, really bad time. Personally, I think I was kind of wishing that Gary Rowett might have left after this game rather than before that, because the fact that we haven't really won in 5 games and we're playing okay. I think the atmosphere, I'd imagine, because I'm going to the game as well on Saturday, will be quite a passionate, intimidating atmosphere that Dan just alluded to there. So tough game really from our point of view. What's your thoughts on the game, Stuart?
Yeah, look, I think it's a little bit similar to when Wednesday came to us, and they had the new manager bounce, and we just we couldn't get it over the line really on that day. Again, I say it every time on our Twitter space and every time that I do a podcast and talk to anybody. If we turn up and perform to the way that we can, I think we'll beat most teams. I really, really do, home and away. It's just the fact that we're low on confidence and the performances just haven't been there. And going to Millwall because this is his first home game, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, first time he's had the away game against Sheffield Wednesday, but this is his first home game.
So it's and you've got a good result against Wednesday. Yes, I know they're down the bottom, but you've still got to win the games. You've still got to play who you're playing against.
We was saying, I think in terms of what he probably wanted to coming into an away game against Sheffield Wednesday, given our away record, playing the team that's bottom of the league, that probably would have been top of his list. And then to have an international break just to further get his ideas across and get to know the players better, he might not have wanted much more, to be completely honest.
Yeah, completely. And, I was, maybe at the start of the week I was confident, but as the week's gone on and we're getting closer to the game, my confidence is coming down a little bit, because I think reality is slightly settling in. Like I said, I think if we turn up and show up, we'll definitely give them a game. I don't think it's going to be as easy as I was initially thinking, but I am going to go for a win. We've got to turn our away form around at some point. and hopefully again we can do it on Saturday against Millwall. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory. I don't think there'll be many changes. I would like to see Sakamoto coming on, probably for Godden, and play Sims through the middle. Keep Hadji Wright on the left. Have the midfield three as Sheaf,
Eccles and Allen.
And Allen.
Is O'Hare back for you guys now?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Is O'Hare back?
Yeah, he is.
That's a huge boost. How long's he been back for? I didn't know he was. I've just must have missed that completely. How long's he been back for?
He's been back. He's played sort of, say, 20 minutes, 30 minutes in the past couple of games that we've had. And then he played a full 90 last Friday in an under-21s game. So I think he may be ready to start against Millwall because he's got that 90 minutes under his belt now for the under-21s.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it's a massive boost. We are getting most of our players back, to be fair, that were injured. I think Kelly's back on the grass. Casey Palmer's back. You know, I think he's going to be pushing for the international break as well. I think the one that we might miss might be Latibaudiere at the back for us, just because he's been away on international duty again with Jamaica. But then he did play him against Hull, and he scored against Hull. And he played, I think he played 2 international games, 60 minutes and 90 minutes. And he came on and played 60 minutes for us as soon as he come back. So it just depends, I think, on how they come back. But again, I would like to think that that we trust Robbins enough. Well, I do, certainly. I know that the fan base is getting a little bit more tetchy with some of the decisions that he's making. And rightly so. But for me, I think we've still got to trust him and trust what he's doing. I think the team will pretty much be the same as our last game, our draw against Stoke before the international break. Apart from, like I said, I would like to see Sakamoto start because I think he will cause you trouble because he's quick and he's got some skill as well. How do you feel about that, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think from our point of view, Latibaudiere, I think, is playing for Jamaica. I think tonight. I think, from what I understand. So
no, he played last night.
He played last night.
Yeah, he played 90 last night. I think
played 90 last night. So he may not start. I wouldn't be surprised if Van Ivac comes back as right back for this game.
Yeah.
And possibly O'Hare, as he alluded to, as he touched on earlier. I think possibly he comes in for maybe Jamie Allen as a more advanced attacking position, and Sakamoto will I think, in my opinion, should come in with Sims, as you said, in the middle, and Godden relegated to the bench. But this is we need to turn this away from around. The only good omen is that our last win was in London against QPR. So that's the only kind of positive I can sort of dwell from this. But we need to start picking up some points on the road. We need to pick up some points generally, home and away, because we seem to draw or lose most weeks. So 3 wins in 17 isn't good enough, and we've got to turn it around. And I mean, Millwall is a hard game, but look, every game in the Championship is a hard game. And I guess what makes this tougher is the fact that they've got Joe Edwards as new manager, and the atmosphere. There'll be, I'm sure the Millwall fans will be right behind him in the team on Saturday, so that won't be easy. So we just got to try and keep it quiet, keep them quiet certainly for the first half, and then I don't expect us. I expect Millwall probably to dominate, maybe more in possession because of the home side, but we've got to try and keep it quiet and try and hit them on the counter. I think really being the away side, but can't say I'm particularly confident about this game.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah,
he's never confident, Dan. I tell you, Mark.
No,
he either sits on the fence or he's negative.
Yeah, I mean, I want us to win, and of course, it would be brilliant. This is the time to turn it around, because in all seriousness, though, Stuart, you look at our next few games. We've got Millwall, then it's Plymouth at home, and then next month you've got Ipswich, Southampton, Leeds. I mean, it doesn't really get a lot tougher than that, really.
No, December for us is a horrible month for us completely.
It's pretty brutal for us as well, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, after you, I think our next 4 games after the Coventry game, we've got Ipswich, then we've got Sunderland, then Cardiff, then Leicester. So pretty brutal run after that. So
yeah, from your point of view, Dan, what players are you looking at that that are going to trouble you, if you like?
I mean, I feel like I have to say Ellis Sims. He scored against us last season for Sunderland. He's a very good player at this level, and I know he hasn't quite hit the ground running for Coventry, but it's going to happen at some point because he's a quality player. And I think the same has to go for Haji Wright, because whenever I've watched him, he has looked a handful. And I think I'm not someone who looks like into massive data, but I think if you do look at the data, he is currently underperforming his expected goals quite significantly. You would bank on him to change that at some point. And that Sakamoto as well that you've mentioned, he's obviously a good little player. And I think, our left back that I'm expecting to play, Murray Wallace, he isn't the quickest for a left back. So if Sakamoto does play down that right hand side, I do think that could be an area where Coventry can cause Millwall some problems.
Okay, do you think defensively that we're okay? How do you feel as a team that we are?
I think there is. I mean, you're down the bottom of the league for a reason, so there obviously is a little bit of a reason for that. And we just scored 4 goals in our last game, so I would back us to 4 goals in our last game, 3 of which came from defenders. So shows that goals are flying all over the team. So yeah, I'm gonna. I think there's obviously a chance we can get a few goals. I want to be confident. It's Joe Edwards' first home game. We just scored 4 in the last game, which doesn't happen very often for Millwall. It's our first time. I think we've scored 4 goals away from home since 2019. First 4-0 away win since 2015, and first 4-0 away win in the Championship since 2003. So definitely confidence to build on. Yeah. And just before Edwards came in, when it was Rowett, then interim Adam Barrett, we made a habit of conceding late goals to lose games and drop points. And I just feel like what goes around comes around, to be honest. And I feel like I feel like everything's set up perfectly just for a late Millwall win 2-1, to be completely honest. I
was going to ask you for a score prediction, but you've just given it me. So
yeah, no, I've got to back Millwall. It's Edwards' first home game.
Yeah.
And I just feel like what comes around goes around, and I do feel like with the attacking prowess that you possess, you will score.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good to know. Hopefully we can defend a little bit better, and we'll get that 1-0 win that I think we'll get. Any prediction off you, Mark?
I'm going to sit on the fence for this one.
Shock.
Yeah, I know. Not a headline grabbing comment there by me. And I'm being positive as well, because I think in all seriousness, I think we're likely to lose this one, but I'm going to go for 2-2. I'll be positive.
Okay.
I think there will be goals, but I'm not massively confident that we'll keep a clean sheet, really. But the only positive I can glean ahead of this game is that we kept a clean sheet against Stoke, and I thought that Collins, Kitchen, and Thomas, as goalkeeper and 2 centre halves, I thought did well, but I think this would be a tougher test, this game, because I thought Stoke were poor, and we should have beaten them. So I expect a tougher game at Millwall. But
yeah, the 2 players that obviously you 2 have both mentioned, Zion Fleming and Tom Bradshaw. I've loved Tom Bradshaw for a long time, and he has been, he's been a consistent striker. And I've always thought, just go for a sneaky punt for him and see what what you'd actually let him go for, because I think his contract's up next year, isn't it?
He signed an extension. It was due to finish last season, then he signed an extension in January.
Oh, okay.
Millwall they don't usually publish the length of contracts, so I don't know whether it's potentially this season or next season.
Right. Okay. Well, I went on to transfer.market, and it looked like his contract was up in 2024.
Okay.
But I always thought that even maybe I don't want to, I don't want your players to go away from you, sort of thing. But the likes of Sunderland and teams like that are up there that were crying out. When Ross Stewart left, Tom Bradshaw would have been a perfect replacement for Ross Stewart as well. I know he's a little bit older, obviously, but he certainly knows where the back of the net is.
I would say his age is one thing that goes against him, but I love Bradders. I think he's a great player, but for a striker, he's not the most prolific striker you will come across, which is one thing I've found. He scored 17 last season, so it seems a bit bonkers that I'm saying that. But he's 17. He seems to score goals in clusters. He will seem to score on 6 games in a bounce, not score for 8 games, then score 6 games on the bounce again. He's kind of a streaky kind of striker. Yeah. And 17 was great last season. I don't know whether he'll get near to them kind of numbers again. He's only got 1 so far this season. So,
well, apart from goals against us, I hope they dry up against us and not anybody else. So that would be quite nice. Anything you want to finish up on, Mark? Any questions?
No, nothing for me.
Happy?
So that's my first visit to the Den on Saturday for me personally, so I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll see a win, which would be nice. But as I said earlier, I can't see that happening really. I'm not particularly optimistic. So
have you got 3,000 coming down? About 3,000?
So I saw it on the club published it today. I think it's about 2,500.
Is it 2.5? I thought it was 2.8. I thought I saw 2.8.
Well, I think the allocation is 2.8. From what I can remember, and I think
so. You'll have the upper and lower tier. So yeah.
So
we'll always bring the noise.
Yeah, Coventry always do travel well.
Yeah.
We've got great supporters.
Yeah,
can't knock that.
Right. So just before we finish, then Dan, I do get our guests to do a word association. So I'll just give you a little bit of a sentence or a one word, and just give us a one-worded answer, or as little as possible, if you can. So the first one is the Den.
Hostile.
Oh, okay. Jake Cooper.
Giant.
Okay. Except for Zion Fleming, the player you expect to move onto big things.
Romain Esse.
Okay. West Ham.
Hate.
Yeah, I was expecting to say no comment, but you said hey. Okay, fair enough. And the last one, favourite away ground.
Good question. Oh God. I'm going to go for a stadium that doesn't exist. I'm going to go for Old Griffin Park.
Okay, fair enough. Wow, thank you very much. And again, thank you very much for coming on. It's much appreciated.
Thanks,
Dan. If you can just tell us where you can find us and what you guys do as well.
So yeah, we're that Millwall podcast. With the best way to sum it up is we're basically a group of lads that we just talk about Millwall as if we're in the pub, and we just enjoy doing it. That's why we do it. It's just nice to let off your steam about your football club in one way or another, isn't it? Exactly. So and we're on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all the usual places, and wherever you guys find your podcasts as well.
Brilliant. Again, thanks again for coming on. What we'll do is when this goes out, so I'll edit the first little bit that I need to do, and then it will go out tonight on YouTube. And then we'll switch it over to a podcast on Spotify and things tomorrow morning. Either Mark or our other colleague Glenn will do that. And whatever we do, we'll link you guys into it. And then I'll get Mark to give you a quick message to say that it's up. And then if you can share it amongst your guys as well, that'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, will do.
Brilliant. So don't shoot off. I'm just going to do my last little bit while you're on. Okay, so you know where to find us, guys. We're on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We are sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications as well. And we're also partnered by the Anecdote Sports Bar. Please go and like and subscribe anything that we do. Go and like the pages. And obviously when we're linked in with Dan and that Millwall podcast, go and like and subscribe to them as well, and get their feedback and listen to them as well. Thanks again, Mark, for coming on. Anything that you want to say to finish off?
Play up Sky Blues and fingers crossed for 3 points.
Good lad. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much, Dan.
Cheers, Stuart. Thank you.
Thank you.